pleased to have in the studio with us Sheriff Darrell Perkins and Tyree Jones. Sheriff Jones, Sheriff of Hinds County, and Sheriff Perkins is the Sheriff of Covington County. Thank you all for being in today.
Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you for having us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and thank you for what all you do. One thing, we're in the middle of Police Week. It's an opportunity, as you all know, to remember officers who've made the ultimate sacrifice, and people who've made the ultimate sacrifice. And I think most of us are fortunate that we kind of get to forget about the people there are out there. I got you, Press. We're able to forget the sacrifice that law enforcement officers make every day because you do such a good job that we don't see the consequences that you're having to deal with. If you want to get a little closer to that microphone, Sheriff.
All right.
But thank y'all. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being here, and thank you for letting so many of us enjoy the benefits of your service. So I know it's I suspect a tough week when you take the time to think about the law enforcement officers who aren't with us anymore.
Right. That's true. This is a time to for all of law enforcement to come together and to join the families in the community, and we remember those that have made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's also a time to, recognize some of the officers that are still out on a day-to-day basis conducting services and serving the community for the job well done that they performed during their duties as well. But most of all, it's more to commemorate those officers that have paid the ultimate sacrifices and to assure the families that our hearts are still with them and they're still a part of the law enforcement community, and thank them for their sacrifices that they gave by allowing their loved ones to serve our community as well.
I think in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, we lost 600 law enforcement to different means of death, which is just a staggering number to contemplate nationwide. That was that many men and women gave their lives in service to others.
Lucian, I think the accurate number is 618.
That's right.
It's every year it's increased. Since 2020. Due to COVID-19 and due to accidents and gunfire and accidental like that. It's just heartbreaking. That we're losing public servants who have a calling to assist, take care of the community and their people.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think, Sheriff, is my understanding within the last couple of years, COVID is actually the number one killer of law enforcement in the nation right now.
That's correct.
So our numbers are being led by COVID. So you have more law enforcement personnel dying and first responders dying from COVID more so than you have gunfire, traffic accidents, even though those still exist. But COVID has been leading the numbers for the last 2 years.
Wow. And I guess it makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's no way to there are a lot of jobs you could easily transition and say, we're going to do this from home. You can't really be at the bleeding edge of being a law enforcement officer from your home. So you got to interact with folks.
That's true. Being a law enforcement officer, it all starts with boots on the ground, public servant, being out in the community, being proactive. In Covington County, we try to be more proactive than reactive, And with such a small agency as we are, we considered a family. We have 14 deputies, full-time deputies, and, 4 part-time deputies, and we know each other's family, and we know emergency contact numbers. It's really close, for our agency. Hinds County is much bigger, and it's really hard. But still, Sheriff Jones, and I know each other, and most all the sheriffs in the state know each other, and it's a family. When something happens to a law enforcement officer in the state, it's just minutes. It's across the state, and we know about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. When COVID came, and I've said it many times, and many other law enforcement professionals have joined me in saying the same thing. We still have to answer the call for service. Our men and women still have to get out, and perform bravery acts and still respond to anything from a traffic accident all the way up to some type of disaster or maybe some type of violent crime scene. So we can't say that we aren't going. We have to respond and just, it's just been a sad situation that some officers have responded and have gotten sick, and, they didn't survive, and I speak for that personally because, of course, we lost our great sheriff last year due to COVID, and at the same time that he got sick with COVID, I was sick with COVID as well. So I had contracted it, and we both went home at the same time, along with several others, with COVID, and just, it was just unfortunately and very tragic that he died, and as a result, I was able to recover along with some others and return to work, but I still suffer from what some of the long-term effects of COVID is today.
Really?
Yeah.
What all's going on there, if you're comfortable sharing?
So I still suffer from loss of taste, loss of smell, and I had COVID. It's been almost, about 9 or 10 months ago. It was July of last year when I had it. So I'm still suffering what they call, I guess, long COVID.
Wow.
I still have a few respiratory issues, but they're not bad because, I still exercise and run and everything, but I'm still suffering from some of the long-term effects. Sometimes I get some of the headaches or whatever, but, again, we still have to keep pushing, still have to keep, motivating our men and women. It's just good that the numbers have changed, due to vaccination and due to what some of the medical experts have, brought forth for us to be able to not only recover, but to keep from contracting it and slow down the spread as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to be a long time, probably decades before we fully understand all the consequences of COVID. Have you found it, I have to think right now it's got to be more difficult than it once was to recruit people to law enforcement, because we've just seen, to me, such a shocking change in the culture nationally around law enforcement. I still think there are a lot of people who aspire to be in law enforcement when they're older, but there's so many public figures who I feel like have denigrated the men and women who wear a badge over the course of the last several decades that nobody gets rich in law enforcement, but you combine, the public, the safety risk you face, the fact that the compensation's so low, and then accompany it with some, to my mind, just really nasty comments that have been made about police. I wonder how that affects recruitment.
Talking about that, me coming from the Highway Patrol background in 1987, there was thousands that applied for the trooper school. Now, those numbers are drastically down all across the nation. Covington County is no different. We are sending applications out to different people, going to law enforcement academies, trying to recruit. And, it is really hard to find somebody that you want to trust, put a badge on them, put them in a car with a weapon, and send them out there to protect and serve your community. And it's very difficult. And you're talking about the pay. The pay is probably below average, for Mississippi versus some other states like Texas and California and Florida, who have a lot more money than we do in different places. But it's a calling. When I came on in '87, it was sort of like when I left college at Southern Miss. I knew that this was what I wanted to be, was a state trooper, and put in 26 years there. Then I came and got elected as sheriff of Covington County. And you don't do it for the money. It's sort of like education. I have a daughter in education. She didn't do it for the money. She'd done it for the love of the kids. And we, Sheriff Jones and I could speak for him as well. You don't do it for the money. You do it for the people. You do it as a calling. So
that's absolutely correct. Law enforcement personnel nationwide, there's a major shortage. It's just not a desirable career right now. And that could be contributed to several factors, especially within the last couple of years. We think about COVID and how that has affected the law enforcement community as well. But there are some other factors that should be considered as well. It's just not a desirable career. You have people recruiting, even some of the agencies that are able to pay more money and have more benefits. They still have a hard time recruiting. So that just reflects and goes to show that it's just not a very desirable career or job right now.
Well, can y'all stick with us for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Hey, this is Lucian Smith in for Paul Gallo here on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk from the Trustmark Bank Studio. Life's beautiful when your bank fits you to a T. Trustmark, people you trust, advice that works. To learn more, go to trustmark.com, member FDIC. Well, with us in studio still are Sheriff Tyree Jones from Hinds County and Darrell Perkins from Covington County, talking a little bit about Law Enforcement Week, just an opportunity to remember the officers and their families who've made the ultimate sacrifice in service to others. And we were talking about earlier a little bit of the difficulty of getting people into law enforcement right now and some of the pressures Mississippi's facing in particular. We were talking about this off the air, but I think it's interesting. Of people, of recruiting coming from other states coming in and getting law enforcement personnel and encouraging them to go to, Washington State, New Jersey. You want to elaborate a little bit on sort of your experience there?
Yeah, they have. You have Texas that has come into the state, right here into the city of Jackson, and recruited Texas Highway Patrol. I think with Mississippi Highway Patrol, they recruited some of their Highway Patrol to go to be Texas Highway Patrol, Department of Public Safety. When I was with Jackson Police Department, I know we lost about 5 or 6 officers to the state of Washington. They went to an agency, I think maybe in Seattle and maybe a suburb or somewhere up there in that particular area. So some of these agencies are heavily recruiting in the South. You have Memphis coming to recruit here. You have Dallas. These people have better benefits and better salaries, and they come into areas where they know that you have trained law enforcement personnel, and they're able to recruit them with the salaries and some of the benefits that they're able to afford to them once they join that agency.
And we're talking about doubling and tripling a salary if somebody's moving out of a law enforcement agency in Mississippi to some of these places.
Absolutely. Some of the salaries double. I mean, you start out at a salary in some of these agencies, whereas it would take you years to even reach that salary here in the state of Mississippi. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, that's got to be tough to recruit against.
I lost one to Tennessee Highway Patrol.
Really?
I did.
Yeah. So it's just, we talk about it's just not a desirable career as well. You don't have the qualified applicants like you wish you would have. So, the numbers have changed. I spent 20 years with the Jackson Police Department, and at one particular time, we had reached nearly 500 officers while I was there. That's a lot of officers. That's all of your sworn personnel. And, of course, we still could have used more, but that was a very comfortable number. Well, those numbers with the Jackson Police Department right now have dwindled tremendously. And it's just not with the Jackson Police Department. It's with the Hinds County Sheriff's Office. It's with the other agencies nearby. You're losing some of your people to other agencies. And once again, you're just not able to recover those numbers because you don't have qualified applicants, and it's just not as desirable.
And do you think is that primarily driven by is that driven mostly by the salary that's causing there to be fewer qualified applicants, or is the culture shifted? Do you have a sense of exactly why it's becoming more difficult to fill officers?
Well, I think it's actually definitely the salaries because even other agencies local to us are trying to recruit some of my guys, and they can pay more money, and if you want to keep qualified applicants, we're going to have to eventually wake up and pay more money. That's definitely going to be the source of the root of it. Everything right there is the source of money. So, we're even short-staffed in Covington County.
Really?
Like Sheriff Jones was talking, qualified applicants. That's what we want to put out on the road and serve and protect our communities is qualified personnel, and we'll additionally train them later, in different classes and different things. But, we even took one recruit directly out of the academy. We trained him for about 4 weeks, the way we do things, and he has turned out to be a superb law enforcement officer for us.
Right. You have to identify the ones that are just motivated, that really want to do this. Like I was saying when we were on the break, I'm 44 years old, and I've been doing this for nearly 23 years. And I'm still as motivated today about doing it as I was when I first started the academy at the age of 21 and graduated by the time I was 22. So, I'm still as motivated, and when you identify the ones that are really motivated, that are really interested, not only do they become some of your best deputies or best officers, they also move themselves through the ranks and they navigate themselves into a leadership position as well. So you're also grooming future leaders along the way as well.
Are y'all, it seems like to me we haven't seen as much of the what I think of as crazy defund the police kind of movements in Mississippi that you've seen in the more left-leaning states. I mean, are y'all seeing much of the sort of anti-police hostility in Mississippi that we're seeing in other places?
I'm not in Covington County. I've got a lot of support. We even have a fund set up now through the Board of Supervisors, a donation fund. Churches are contacting me and different individuals. Hey, how can we help y'all? You get a bad rap. Hey, let me provide lunch for your staff this week, or today, or whatever. So, not in Covington County. Like I said, we're a family down there. With law enforcement, we get along with the other agencies really well, and we're seeing a lot of support just because of that negative comments that some of the northern states have had
to deal with.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I can speak the same for Hinds County, man. You can't know how much we appreciate the citizens of Hinds County for supporting us. We haven't had any of that negativity here. We haven't experienced it. And I think that is due to the fact that the people in Hinds County know that they have to depend on us.
Right.
Not only do they have to depend on us, but we need them as well. Just like Sheriff Perkins was saying, we're all a family. We have to depend on one another. Law enforcement cannot be successful without the community. And another thing that I can contribute not only to Hinds County, but to Covington County and other jurisdictions here in the state of Mississippi, we have not suffered tremendously some of the things that we have witnessed nationwide between law enforcement and arrestees and some of that. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have our own issues, but we do, but it has not elevated to the point where it has nationwide. And you contribute that to the professionalism of your men and women that are out here answering the calls for service. They're conducting themselves professionally, and they've not put us in those types of situations to bring a lot of negativity towards us, to turn the community against us as well. But, of course, you do have some individuals, you may have some groups that turn their backs to law enforcement because of something that happened in another state, up north, New York, Illinois, Michigan, or wherever some of these incidents are happening. And sometimes we do suffer as a result of that, but it has not been on a scale that has completely divided the community and law enforcement. We have to, on a day-to-day basis, continue to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, the defund the police stuff, it struck me that so much of that was driven by wealthy liberals who had, they were living in gated buildings and gated neighborhoods, and it was easy for them to say, but the people who actually benefited from police, weren't jumping on that bandwagon. It seemed like to me, for the most part. Well, just say again what I said at the beginning. Thank you both for your service. Thank you to the men and women who work for both of you and protect their communities. I think, like I said, it's so easy to forget if you're not directly having to call on law enforcement how much of our ability to enjoy our day-to-day lives is because of the sacrifice that you and your officers make. What's the best way for an average citizen who's not a law enforcement officer to express their thanks to people who have made the commitment to be in law enforcement?
I'm just saying, if I understand the question correctly, just to thank you every now and then. We'll be in the lunch line going somewhere, and somebody will come up to you and say, thank you for your service, and we appreciate that, because a lot of times it is a sacrifice. Sheriff Jones has been in law enforcement a long time. There's been birthday parties he's missed. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of different occasions with families that we have missed over our career, and we sacrificed that. We chose this profession. Me and my wife have a running joke sometimes. She said, you chose your profession and I chose mine, and, she was an educator. And she had off the summers, I didn't. I had to work. But, it was sort of it's tough sometimes, to leave your families and go out to work. Me working with the Highway Patrol, worked a lot of weekends, worked a lot of holidays, and, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I just think that as long as we have the support and the communication between the community and law enforcement, like he said, sometimes just a simple thank you. We're not asking for monetary or any type of benefits, anything, but that open line of communication and be able to trust us just as we want to be able to trust the community as well. I think that will forever bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community.
Well, thank you both for being here with us, and thank you for all you do for your communities. This is Lucian Smith in for Paul Gallo here on the SuperTalk.